She didn't know the man standing in the shadows of the throne room was listening to every word. Didn't know that in exactly 3 seconds her entire life would shift on its axis. All Mira knew was that she was done. Done being invisible. Done being overlooked. Done bleeding herself dry for a kingdom that had never once looked her way. The captain's badge hit the obsidian table with a crack that echoed through the empty chamber. She'd waited until the council had cleared out, until the advisors had retreated to their wine and schemes, until she thought she was finally, blessedly, alone. I quit. The words tasted like freedom, like the first breath after drowning. She turned toward the door, her worn boots already carrying her toward a future she hadn't figured out yet, but that had to be better than this. Better than 5 years of service without a single acknowledgement. Better than watching lesser soldiers promoted over her head because they had the right family names, the right connections, the right anatomy. A hand closed around her wrist. Her combat instincts fired before her mind could catch up. She spun, her free hand already reaching for the dagger at her hip, her weight shifting into a strike position that had saved her life more times than she could count. And then she stopped. The man holding her wrist was tall. Taller than any soldier she'd trained with, his shoulders broad enough to block out the torchlight behind him. Dark hair fell across a face carved from shadows and sharp angles, a jaw that could have been cut from stone, cheekbones that caught the flickering light like blades. But it was his eyes that froze her in place. They were gold. Not amber, not brown, not any color that belonged in a human face. Pure, molten gold. And they were fixed on her with an intensity that made her pulse stutter and her breath catch somewhere in the back of her throat. The Alpha King. She'd seen him from a distance, of course. Everyone had. At ceremonies and parades and the occasional training ground inspection, where he'd passed through like a storm, leaving whispers and trembling recruits in his wake. But she'd never been this close. Never close enough to feel the heat radiating off his body, to catch the scent of pine and something darker, something wild, to see the way his pupils dilated as he looked at her. "You're not going anywhere." His voice was low, rough, like gravel wrapped in velvet. It slid down her spine and pooled somewhere dangerous. Mira's jaw tightened. She'd spent 5 years perfecting the art of being invisible. 5 years making herself small, quiet, unremarkable enough to survive in a world that didn't want her. But something in those golden eyes cracked through every wall she'd built. "With respect, Your Majesty." The title tasted bitter. "You don't get to decide that." His grip on her wrist didn't tighten, but it didn't loosen either. His thumb pressed against her pulse point, and she knew with a certainty that made her stomach flip, that he could feel how fast her heart was racing. "You're the one who cleared the Northern Pass last winter." It wasn't a question. "Alone, when the rest of your unit retreated." She blinked. "How do you—" "You're the one who identified the assassination plot against Lord Varen, who noticed the pattern in the servant rotations that everyone else missed." He stepped closer, and the air between them thickened into something almost tangible. "You're the one who's been writing strategic analyses and sending them unsigned to the War Council for the past 2 years. Mira's blood ran cold. She'd been so careful to remain anonymous, to let others take credit, to stay invisible even when her insight saved lives. That wasn't... Don't. Something flickered in those golden eyes. Not anger. Something worse. Something that looked almost like recognition. "I know your handwriting, Captain Thorne. I've read every report, every analysis, every brilliant, overlooked piece of strategy that this kingdom ignored because it came from someone without a title." The floor seemed to tilt beneath her feet. "If you knew, then why didn't I do anything?" His jaw flexed. "Because I'm an idiot. Because my advisors assured me the reports were coming from someone who preferred anonymity, and I respected that. Because I didn't realize until 3 months ago that the person writing them was the same person being passed over for every promotion, every commendation, every basic recognition she deserved. Before we continue, please take 2 seconds to like this video. It tells me you want more stories like this. Mira's mind was spinning. 5 years of frustration, of bitterness, of feeling invisible, and he'd been reading her work the entire time. He knew? Then you understand why I'm leaving. She tried to pull her wrist free, but his grip held firm. If you've read my reports, you know what this kingdom needs. It doesn't need me. It needs leaders who will actually be listened to. It needs you. The words came out rough, almost torn from his throat. I need... He stopped himself, and something raw flickered across his features before he locked it down. The kingdom needs its best strategic mind, and that's you. Pretty words from the man who let me rot in obscurity for 5 years. You're right. He said it simply, without excuse. I failed you. The system failed you. But I'm asking you... His thumb traced a small circle against her pulse point, and her breath caught. Don't leave. Not like this. Give me a chance to fix it. Fix it how? She hated how her voice wavered, hated how aware she was of every point of contact between them, of the heat of his body, of the way his scent was making it hard to think clearly. Let me show you. 1 week. If you're not convinced by then that things are changing, that you're valued, his golden eyes held hers. I'll personally escort you to the border with enough gold to start over anywhere you want. It was insane. She should say no. Should walk out of this throne room and never look back. Never let herself be pulled back into a system that had chewed her up and spit her out. But there was something in his eyes. Something desperate and fierce and unexpectedly honest. 1 week, she heard herself say, and then I'm gone. The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. We'll see about that. He released her wrist, and she felt the loss of his touch like a physical ache. That was wrong. That was dangerous. She'd learned long ago not to want things she couldn't have. Tomorrow morning, he said, straightening to his full height. Be at the strategy chamber at dawn. I'm restructuring my war council, and you're going to help me decide who deserves to be on it. Mira stared at him. You're joking. I never joke about strategy, Captain Thorne. He turned to leave, but paused at the doorway. The torchlight caught his profile, throwing his features into sharp relief. And one more thing. Stop writing anonymous reports. From now on, I want your name on every single one. He was gone before she could respond, leaving her standing alone in the empty throne room with her badge still lying on the obsidian table, and her pulse still racing from the ghost of his touch. What had she just agreed to? The next morning came too soon. Mira had spent the night in her small quarters in the barracks, tossing and turning, running through every possible explanation for the Alpha King's behavior, and finding none of them satisfactory. She'd finally given up on sleep around 4 a.m. and spent the remaining hours sharpening her weapons and trying not to think about golden eyes. The strategy chamber was in the east wing of the palace, a room she'd never been invited to despite her years of service. She'd expected guards at the door, expected to have to explain herself, expected the familiar experience of being looked through like she didn't exist. Instead, the doors were already open, and the Alpha King was waiting inside. He looked different in the pale morning light. Younger somehow, despite the shadows under his eyes that suggested he hadn't slept either. He was dressed simply. No crown, no formal robes, just a dark tunic that stretched across his broad shoulders and trousers tucked into worn boots. He looked less like a king and more like a soldier. You came. There was something like relief in his voice. I said I would. Most people who say they'll do something don't actually follow through. He gestured to the massive table that dominated the room, covered in maps and reports and small figurines representing troop movements. Come, look at this. She approached cautiously, keeping the table between them. But when she looked down at the maps, her strategic mind immediately engaged, pushing aside all the confusing emotions. You're planning a campaign against the Southern Raiders. Her eyes moved across the terrain markers, the supply line calculations, the proposed troop positions. But this approach is wrong. You're leaving your eastern flank exposed. I know. He moved to stand beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth but not quite touching. That's what my advisors insisted on. Lord Brennan is convinced that the Eastern Territories are secure because his brother-in-law controls the garrison there. His brother-in-law is an incompetent fool who got the posting because of nepotism. The words were out before she could stop them. The Alpha King smiled, actually smiled, and it transformed his face from coldly handsome to something devastating. I know that too. What would you do instead? Mira hesitated for only a moment before reaching for the figurines, rearranging them with quick, practiced movements. Move the secondary force here, to this ridge. It gives you coverage of both approaches and a clear retreat path if needed. Pull half of the eastern garrison and redistribute them along this line. Anyone with actual combat experience, not the political appointments. And this supply route? She traced a finger along the map. It's twice as long as it needs to be. There's a pass through the Thornwood that would cut your resupply time in half. The Thornwood is dangerous. My advisors said, your advisors have never actually traveled through the Thornwood. I have. Twice. The dangers are overstated by merchants who want to maintain their monopoly on the longer route. She looked up and found him watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. You asked for my advice. That's my advice. Implement it. What? I'm making you my new strategic advisor. Effective immediately. He said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. You'll have full authority over campaign planning. Anyone who questions you answers to me. Mira's head was spinning. You can't just... I'm the Alpha King. I can do whatever I want. There was a hint of dark humor in his voice, but also something harder underneath. And what I want is to stop losing soldiers to preventable mistakes, because I listen to advisors who care more about their family connections than about winning. The council will never accept this. I'm a woman. I'm common-born. I have no title. The council will accept what I tell them to accept. He moved around the table, closing the distance between them until she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. I've been playing their political games for too long. Trying to be the diplomatic king my father wanted me to be. But diplomacy isn't working. What this kingdom needs is someone who isn't afraid to tell me when I'm wrong. And you think that's me? I think you're the only person in this entire palace who's never tried to tell me what I want to hear. His voice dropped lower. Do you know how rare that is? How valuable? Standing this close, she could see the striations in his golden irises, the faint scar that ran along his jawline, the slight part of his lips. Her pulse was doing something erratic that had nothing to do with strategy and everything to do with the way he was looking at her. I should warn you, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. I'm not good at politics. I don't know how to smile and nod and pretend stupid ideas are brilliant. Good. He reached out, and for a moment she thought he was going to touch her face. Instead, he picked up one of the figurines she'd moved, a small wolf carved from obsidian, and turned it over in his fingers. I have enough people who smile and nod. What I need is someone who fights. The week that followed was unlike anything Mira had experienced in her 5 years of service. She went from being invisible to being the most visible person in the palace. The Alpha King, Kale, she learned his name was, though she couldn't bring herself to use it, had her at his side for every meeting, every council session, every military briefing. He asked for her opinion publicly, defended her assessments against advisors who sputtered with outrage, and systematically dismantled every attempt to dismiss or diminish her. It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. It was also, she slowly realized, completely unprecedented. They hate me, she said on the 4th night, standing on the balcony outside the strategy chamber while the sun set in streaks of orange and gold. The council, I mean. Every time I open my mouth, they look at me like I've personally insulted their ancestors. Kale leaned against the stone railing beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. They hate change. They hate anyone who threatens the comfortable little system they've built. It's not personal. It feels personal. It won't always. He turned to look at her, and in the fading light his golden eyes looked almost human. Give it time. Once you've been right enough times, once your strategies have saved enough lives, even the most stubborn of them will come around. And if they don't, then they'll be removed from the council. He said it simply, without heat. I'm done letting tradition and politics cost lives. Mira studied his profile, the strong line of his jaw, the slight tension around his eyes that never quite went away. Why do you care so much? You could be like every other king, letting your advisors run things while you enjoy the privileges of your position. He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. My mother died when I was 7. A border raid that should have been anticipated, would have been anticipated if anyone had listened to the garrison commander who'd been warning about suspicious troop movements for months. But he was lowborn, common, easy to ignore, so they ignored him, and she died. I'm sorry. I'm not telling you for sympathy. He turned to face her fully, and the last light of sunset painted him in shades of gold and shadow. I'm telling you because I made a promise to myself that I would never be that kind of king, that I would listen to the people who actually knew what they were talking about, regardless of their birth or their status. And I failed that promise. For 5 years, you were right there, and I didn't see you. You see me now? I do. His hand came up, and this time he did touch her face, just his fingertips grazing her cheek, so light it could have been imagined. Mira. It was the first time he'd used her given name. The sound of it in his voice did something dangerous to her heart. Don't. She stepped back, her pulse hammering. Whatever this is, it can't happen. You're the king, and I'm... You're what? He followed her, closing the distance she'd tried to create. You're brilliant? You're brave? You're the most capable person in this entire kingdom? Because yes, you are all of those things. I'm no one. I'm common-born and titleless, and you're the woman who makes me want to be a better king. His voice dropped to something barely above a whisper. The woman who challenges me and questions me and isn't afraid to tell me when I'm being an idiot. Do you have any idea how that feels? To finally have someone who sees me as just a man, not a crown? Mira's back hit the balcony wall. She had nowhere else to retreat. We've known each other less than a week. I've known your mind for 2 years. He braced one hand on the wall beside her head, not caging her in. She could leave if she wanted, but close enough that his body heat surrounded her. I fell in love with your strategies long before I knew your face. The way you think, the way you see patterns no one else sees, the way you fight for what's right even when no one is watching. I was already half in love with you before you threw your badge on that table. That's insane. Probably. His forehead dropped to rest against hers, but I've spent my whole life being sensible, being diplomatic, being the king everyone expected me to be. I'm tired, Mira. I'm tired of pretending I don't feel things. I'm tired of pretending I don't want things. What do you want? You. The word came out broken, desperate. I want you. Your mind. Your fire. Your frustrating refusal to bow to anyone. I want to wake up next to you and argue about campaign strategies. I want to watch you terrify my council into competence. I want... His voice cracked. I want you to stay. Not because I ordered you to. Because you want to. She should say no. She should push him away. Walk out. Protect herself from the inevitable heartbreak of wanting something this impossible. Instead, she kissed him. It was barely a brush of lips at first. Tentative. Questioning. But then his hand came up to cup the back of her head, his fingers tangling in her hair, and the kiss deepened into something hungry and fierce. He tasted like wine and desperation, and something wild that made her blood sing. Her hands fisted in the front of his tunic, pulling him closer, and the small sound he made against her mouth shattered something inside her. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his golden eyes were blazing. "Is that a yes?" His voice was wrecked. "Please tell me that's a yes." "It's a maybe." But she was smiling, and she could see the hope dawn across his features. "Ask me again at the end of the week." The sixth day brought the consequences Mira had known were coming. She'd been in the training yard, working through drills with the younger soldiers who'd started approaching her for advice once word spread that the Alpha King's new strategic advisor was former enlisted. The sun was high, her tunic was soaked with sweat, and she was just demonstrating a disarming technique when the first arrow flew past her ear. Her reflexes saved her life. She dropped and rolled, coming up with her sword already drawn, her eyes scanning the walls for the archer. 3 more arrows followed in quick succession, forcing her behind a weapons rack while the recruits scattered, screaming. "There!" One of them pointed at the eastern tower. Mira was already moving, but so was a dark blur that launched itself from the palace doors with inhuman speed. Kale. He scaled the tower wall like it was nothing, his body moving with a predator's grace, and she heard the archer's scream cut short. When he dropped back down to the training yard, his hands were stained with blood and his eyes were burning gold fire. "You're hurt." He was at her side in an instant, his hands running over her arms, her shoulders, searching for wounds. "I'm fine." The arrows missed. But she was shaking, the adrenaline crash hitting hard. Who was it? Lord Brennan's man. His jaw was tight with barely controlled fury. The brother-in-law whose garrison you recommended dismantling. So I was right about him being a problem. A choked sound escaped Kale's throat, half laugh, half growl. "You were right, and he nearly killed you for it." His hands cupped her face, tilting it up so she had to meet his eyes. "I'm going to destroy him and everyone who helped him. No one touches what's mine." The possessiveness in his voice should have bothered her. It didn't. "I can fight my own battles." "I know you can." He pressed his forehead to hers. "But you don't have to anymore, not alone." The trial was swift and public. Lord Brennan and his brother-in-law stood before the court, and Kale delivered their sentences himself. Stripped of titles, lands seized, imprisonment until the council could decide on execution. Mira stood at his right hand the entire time, visible and untouchable, and watched the message spread through every shocked face in the chamber. "Anyone who threatens her threatens me." That night, after the chaos had settled, Kale found her in the strategy chamber. She was staring at the maps without seeing them, her mind still replaying the whistle of arrows, the screams of the recruits, the blood on his hands. "You should be sleeping," she said without turning around. "So should you." He moved to stand behind her, close enough that she could feel him but not quite touching. "Are you all right?" "I've been shot at before." "That's not what I asked." She closed her eyes. "I keep thinking about what would have happened if you hadn't been there. If you hadn't moved so fast. I would have felt you die." His voice was raw. "The bond. I felt your fear. From across the palace I felt it, and I've never moved so fast in my life." Mira turned to face him. "What bond?" Kale's expression shifted, something vulnerable flickering behind his eyes. "There's something I should have told you. Something about what I am. What we are. You're the Alpha King. I know what that means. You know the stories. The strength. The speed. The power." He took her hands in his thumbs tracing gentle circles on her skin. "But there's more. There's a bond that forms sometimes, between an alpha and their mate. A connection that goes deeper than anything physical." Mira's breath caught. "Mate? I felt it the moment I touched your wrist. This..." He pressed their joined hands to his chest over his heart. "This thing between us. It's not just attraction, Mira. It's destiny. Fate. The universe telling me that you're the one I'm supposed to spend my life with." "And you didn't think to mention this earlier?" I was trying to give you a choice. His golden eyes were bright with emotion. To let you decide if you wanted me without the weight of some mystical bond influencing you. I didn't want you to feel trapped. You thought I'd feel trapped by being connected to you? I thought you'd feel trapped by anything that took away your autonomy, and I was right to worry about that. I've seen how you value your independence. I would never want to take that from you. She stared at him for a long moment. This powerful man who'd spent a week rearranging his entire kingdom for her, who'd killed to protect her, who was now standing before her with his heart in his hands, terrified she might walk away. "You're an idiot," she said. His face fell. "Mira, I can feel it too." She stepped closer, pressing their bodies together. The bond. I didn't know what it was, but I felt it. Every time you touch me, every time you look at me, it's like something in my chest is reaching for you. You can feel it? I thought I was going crazy. A laugh bubbled up, tears prickling at her eyes. I thought I was losing my mind, wanting you this much after less than a week. He kissed her then, fierce and desperate, his arms wrapping around her like he was afraid she might disappear. She kissed him back with everything she had, all the loneliness and longing and hope she'd buried for so long pouring out of her. "Stay," he breathed against her lips. "Not for a week. Forever. Be my queen, my mate, my partner. Help me build the kingdom we both know it could be." "Yes." The word came out easy, inevitable. Yes. 3 months later, Mira stood on the same balcony where they'd first kissed, watching the sun rise over a kingdom that had transformed before her eyes. The Southern Raiders had been defeated using her strategies. The corrupt council members had been replaced with competent advisors, some noble, some common-born, all chosen for merit rather than birth. The army she'd helped restructure was stronger than it had ever been. And the Alpha King was wrapped around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder, his arms crossed over her stomach where a new life was just beginning to grow. "You're thinking too loud," Kale murmured against her neck. "I can feel it through the bond. I'm thinking about how glad I am that you stopped me. When you quit? When I quit?" She turned in his arms, reaching up to trace the line of his jaw. "If you'd let me walk out that door, I never would have let you walk out that door." He caught her hand and pressed a kiss to her palm. "Even if you'd fought me, even if you'd hated me, I would have found a way to make you stay, to show you what you were worth, what we could be together." "That's very autocratic of you." "I'm a king. It comes with the territory." But he was smiling. That soft smile she'd learned was reserved just for her. "Besides, you would have done the same thing." "Probably." She grinned. "I'm told I can be quite stubborn." He laughed, pulling her closer. "The most stubborn person in the entire kingdom. That's why I love you." "Because I'm stubborn? Because you're impossible and brilliant and brave, and because you never once tried to be anything other than exactly who you are." He kissed her forehead, her nose, the corner of her mouth. "Because you make me want to be worthy of you." "You already are." "Then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure I stay that way." She pulled him down into a proper kiss, soft and slow and full of promise. Outside the window, the kingdom they were building together stretched toward the horizon, golden with the light of a new day. She'd come to this palace planning to disappear. Instead, she'd found something she never knew she was looking for. A home, a purpose, a love that burned bright as molten gold. And she was never going to let it go. Where are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. I love hearing your thoughts. And if you'd like to support me, please subscribe. It's free, and it helps more people hear these stories.